Now it's time to discuss business-to-business partnerships, how to leverage networks and talent pools through cross-mentorship. I'm going to introduce our panelists. Ms. Nouf AlSowaidi, Director, HR, Gulf Air. Ms. Buheji, Chief Human Resource Officer, National Bank of Bahrain. Mr. Alberto Melgoza, HR Development Center, FSD Business Academy, Finance Strategy and Development, Saudi Aramco. And our moderator, Mr. Esam, Hammad, Director of the Partnerships and Customer Engagement Department, Labor Fund, Tamkeen.
It's almost exactly 12 o'clock, so good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Esam Hammad, the second Hammad moderating a session today after the fantastic session that Rani Hammad moderated this morning. So I'm the head of partnerships and market engagement in Tamkeen. And I suppose one of the reasons why Zahra approached me to moderate the session is given Tamkeen's experience or attempt in addressing this mentorship gap that we might have in Bahrain. So as my colleague Ahmed mentioned earlier during the last panel session, that Tamkeen has launched a number of programs over the last few years to address both gaps in career mentorship and business-to-business mentorship. So we've actually launched a number of pilots whereby we've introduced programs with software applications where there would be formulas that would match people together and then have some human intervention in matching mentors to mentees. So through both of these programs, our objective was on one fold to actually support young Bahrainis to progress in their careers in different industries by assigning them career mentors. And at the same time, we wanted to help young Bahraini business owners and startups to get access to experienced professionals and veteran business owners to help them in successfully managing their businesses. Now, the reason why Tamkeen introduced these programs is because there was a need in the market. And as you all know, Tamkeen is in the business of developing Bahrainis, developing skills, and supporting entrepreneurship. So we had several people approaching us asking for that non-tangible support. Tamkeen provides millions annually through grants, through financial assistance, but we realized that there's a missing ingredient, which is the non-tangible support, that knowledge transfer. And we're not the experts. You are the experts, so what we can do is facilitate relationships between mentors and mentees. One of the gentlemen in the first panel this morning said he doesn't believe in the sponsored mentorship programs. There's probably a lot of truth to that. However, we had to intervene and create these platforms and facilitate relationships because they weren't happening organically. So that was our experience, and we obviously need industry to back us up and to help facilitate these relationships in the market, to bring that knowledge and to transfer that knowledge, and there's a lot of knowledge in the market, to people that need it to excel in their careers and to excel as business owners and entrepreneurs. So with that said, I have an amazing panel today, two wonderful, powerful ladies. Ms. Nouf AlSowaidi, who is the Director of HR at Gulf Air, and Buheji, who's the CHRO at NBB, and they've made an amazing announcement today. And of course, Mr. or Dr. Alberto Melgoza, who is a man of many hats. He joins us today all the way from Aramco, and I'll leave it to the three panelists to also introduce themselves. Mr. Alberto is a veteran of mentorship, and I'm sure he has a lot to share with us today. Maybe as a first round of first question I would have is if you could kindly introduce yourselves to the audience and maybe share with us some of the attempts that you've had till date in actually creating mentorship programs within your organization, which eventually will lead us to maybe have a discussion around the cross-mentoral or cross-industrial relationships and cross-pollination of these relationships. So we can start with you, Nouf, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. So in my experience with the Gulf Air, which is less than 2 years right now, I've only just started a mentorship program for Gulf Air. I've invited our mentors to join this program. This is going to be the kickoff, the learning experience for them in order to see what the industry is doing, hear from very experienced, I want to call them veterans, but they might feel like I'm making comment on their age, but no, it's their experience that we're hoping will benefit our staff. So for Gulf Air, this is the first mentorship, let's say, program structured. And I do agree with you, the industry, or let's say even the job market here in Bahrain, really needs a structured program in order to kickstart this culture, this habit that we have yet to build. So I do applaud Tamkeen's efforts and Reach. I'm very glad that they are here in this forum, because their focus is on mentoring women. But also, having started this culture, kickstarted it from on a national level. In terms of other companies that I've worked for, I've been through mentoring programs with Zain, with Standard Chartered Bank. So I want to say that I've got experience, but I cannot say that I'm an expert. The expert in the panel is sitting right there, Dr. Alberto, and he's going to be a lot more beneficial in this. We're all still learning. We're all still learning how to do it in the best way possible. Mr. Khalid Rumehi this morning gave a lot of very important insights. Yes, it's not the only thing. It's not a panacea, but it's definitely a good kickstart for future endeavors and other initiatives to come.
Thank you, and I think it's worth mentioning that you've worked with several local organizations, large organizations, I must mention. So it'd be interesting to hear at some point the different cultures within these organizations and what actually makes successful mentorship programs work versus, challenging environments around that. So if we can move on to Dana, we'd really love to hear about the program that was launched today. Congratulations, by the way. So if you can tell us a little bit about that and how NBB actually came to develop such a program and what was the intention behind it.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I think the majority here know who I am personally because they're part of the NBB team. I'd like to start off by saying just how proud I am of everyone who's participating, who's interested in understanding this space a bit more, because to me it's just a sign of commitment towards helping others. And I think it's a basic human instinct in us all, and to find the right channels to be able to tap into it is why the majority of us are here and sharing our knowledge or wanting to acquire knowledge in this space. To me, mentorship has a very it resonates on a very personal note. I think my experience with it before it reached the professional arena has been really very personal. I've tapped into a lot of people whom I admired, or people who are going through a very similar journey to myself. On a personal note, before I started even tapping into it from a professional, and I found it very accelerating in terms of my personal development of growth. I always say you can never differentiate really between your personal life and your professional life. As you evolve and you grow in one aspect, the other aspect gets affected the same way. So for me, my experience, I've been very fortunate and grateful to have others have lent me a hand of support in my personal journey and in my professional, and I thought it was about time to allow for a structure that can facilitate that kind of person-to-person, human-to-human support. And being very conscious of the environment that we're in, the culture in which we operate, the fact that by definition we come from a more conservative culture than other cultures perhaps. There are natural obstacles, I think, that might negatively influence the impact that mentorship could have in accelerating and supporting each other. So just like I think being part of a professional world, it facilitated a better interconnection between us. I thought formalizing support in the form of mentorship in a professional environment would help us collectively move to the next level. Totally agree that mentors and mentees both benefit from this relationship. I've personally experienced a lot of growth as a mentee, but even more growth as a mentor, learning from the experience I've had with the people I've connected with, and I feel very fortunate to have done so. At NBB, our journey has been quite recent in the formal arena. Informally, I think we've always, beyond the scope of line manager and what the relationship between employees and their direct reports is, members of the staff have extended a supporting hand across different disciplines, across different levels, in a more informal way. More recently, we decided to adopt it in a more structured way in order to enable the majority of the interested staff to participate. And we've officially launched it today. We've done it not in a scientific, systematic way yet, although we might be tapping into Tamkeen and its resources to do so. But we started off by just tapping into people and asking them for their preference. And based on that and the assessment of certain soft criteria, we've matched people. It's a pilot launch. We're formalizing. There is structure to it, so there is feedback and there is commitment to a particular period and what have you. But beyond that, we're looking to see how this program will benefit and give back to each participant, be it mentee or mentor.
That's great. And of course, Gulf Fair and NBB are legacy Bahraini organizations. And it's always great to see your efforts in building that layer of future leadership within your organizations. Saudi Aramco as well is a regional legacy company. So we'd really love to hear from Alberto about your experience in maybe developing some of these programs next door.
First, let me introduce myself. I know a few people in the crowd, but for those that don't know me, I am Mexican, Australian, and 50% Saudi now, right? I love Saudi, by the way. So, but I also want to appreciate, and I'm extremely grateful for Sarah to inviting me to this event. It is so important. Mentorship, sharing knowledge is such an important aspect. I personally mentor SIOP. Kathy, you know SIOP, right? I personally mentor LinkedIn, right? I mentor with Financial Executives International. I'm a committee member of the Governance, Risk, and Compliance, and we deal with very important people in that committee, and they ask me questions all the time, so that's mentoring on the go, right? For Aramco, first, I'm very grateful to be an employee for Aramco because, you know, working for the largest, biggest company in the world, open doors, right? So creates opportunity. And because of that opportunity, we are able to leverage important mentoring programs, such as with JP Morgan, thank you JP Morgan, HSBC, thank you HSBC, EY, thank you EY, Energy Intelligence, thank you Energy Intelligence, S&P, thank you. So what we do is not really a generic mentoring program. We are extremely contextual specific. My goal is to develop financial executives, CFOs for our subsidiaries and joint ventures, and my goal is also to develop nominated directors of our subsidiaries. So how do we do this? We actually, we are aware and we identify competencies required by those CFOs. We reach out globally to an immense network that I have, right? With Shell, BP, Heineken. I can actually mention Heineken here. In Saudi, they will kill me, right? But I can actually say Heineken. I'm glad, right? So we have a vast network that they share their competencies. I deal with the CFOs, with the treasurers, with some directors, and they tell me, well, they need to do this. Then we put it into context. We create those competencies, and I go and speak with EY. EY, you want to do business with Aramco? Okay, you need to open the doors and allow my employee to work with you for 1 year, 2 years, 6 months, 3 months. EY says, well, you're on Aramco? Yes, of course. What do you want? Well, I leverage that, right? I leverage that, and we, based on competency, send our employees to EY, and they're working at the moment. Just half an hour ago, I was sending an email to the EY partner of Aramco about a guy that we're going to send to Germany for a 6-month assignment. So what we do is we then talk with the mentor, and then we organize a set of activities that that employee is going to be doing. So that's just an example of the type of programs that we do. Thankful for Aramco to open the doors in that way. But by the way, not only Aramco can do it, you can also do it, right? But requires more effort, frankly. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Alberto. Of course, Saudi Aramco has been making waves lately. You've been on the news a lot in the past few months. You know, it's very clear that Aramco is an amazing employer, probably one of the best employers in the region. And I think it's these incentives that employees have access to that really helps you retain the best talent as well in your industry. So my question to the local organizations and industries is, what can we do to tie mentorship to incentives for retaining the best talent in organizations, and maybe tie this up with different measures that could potentially make it easier for organizations such as Gulf Air, MBB to collaborate? So what would make your life easier to collaborate with other organizations within the market, be it within your industry or other industries, to collaborate on these different efforts?
Thank you. That's a very good question. This is something we had debated during our first meeting. I do believe, I mean, just even drawing upon the experience right here today, from the minute I walked through the door and I looked at all the faces, some faces I've actually interacted with, some others not, but those I've interacted with, whether in my previous experiences or within Gulf Air, or just that I know of, you know, like, for example, I have David, he was my boss in Standard Chartered Bank. Ilham Hassan is someone I look up to who is a board member at Mumtalakat, where I used to work. Just this networking opportunity, creating these you know, light bulb moments. Yes, I want to learn from this person. I want to talk to this person a little bit more. If we can just create these as the local legacy organizations, to use your words. Legacy doesn't begin to explain it, though. I think this will benefit us a lot. And I think it's just a light bulb moment that I had earlier. And I was, why don't we just hold an event where we we just give the opportunity for potential mentees and potential mentors to meet and interact, and they just choose each other. That's the simplest way that we can do it. I don't know if you agree, Donna.
And we would be happy to actually facilitate this on behalf of Gulf Air, on behalf of any organization that wants to initiate such a networking event.
From my perspective, practicality is key, and for us to be all on the same sort of platform, I think going back to JC's point on mindset and commitment, and the culture that each organization decides to adopt when it comes to support and acceleration of human capital. So it'd be very difficult for, I think, NBB maybe, for example, to connect with an organization that doesn't share its values when it comes to human capital and what it needs to do, and the degree of commitment that we have towards acceleration and towards supporting our talent in growing and grooming. So for it to work, I think we all need to agree on a particular level of commitment, because if that's not there, you'll quickly see the disparity. And I don't think the sort of industry to industry or organization to organization calibration would work. So to start off with, in pairing or organizations where cross-mentorship can take place, I think there has to be a pairing of cultures and commitment and prioritization of this as an important tool. So, I think our participation in a forum like this is evidence of our degree of commitment to it as an acceleration tool. We would love to pair up with another organization. Our ambition is to have these networks within our portfolio companies, so within the umbrella of Mumtalakat one day. But for it to happen, I think cultures have to be aligned and commitment has to be aligned.
That's great. Pairing of cultures sounds very interesting. So I understand that the facilitation of these networking activities is important. And, this is something we're ready to help with. So you all heard it today. So if you want to come forward and initiate such an activity, then we're more than happy to actually
I want to take that on board. I will, I like that offer. So if you don't mind, Anna, we can send some of our people to your bank.
Excellent.
And you can send some people to Aramco to learn. So hopefully we can talk seriously about this, right?
Perfect.
Important.
Yeah, great. So Alberto, you've been involved with mentorship programs in different parts of the world.
Sure.
So I'm curious, is it the same everywhere? Are there different things that make these relationships stick, or is it mostly similar? Given your experience in Bahrain, the discussions we've had, do you think there's something that might be unique about Bahrain that might actually help in having successful mentorship, or that could be a hindrance to successful mentorships? So what's your take on that? Is mentorship a global thing that works in a very similar fashion, or should we very much look into the cultural differences when we look at the success of these programs?
Well, but I think first, Bahrain is magic, right? We call it Bahrain Vegas, right? So you have about every weekend, 80% of Eastern Province in Saudi Arabia coming to Bahrain. So here we go. Bahrain is magic for sure. Now, I think in terms of a global, attitude for mentoring, I think, are we very honest and realistic? I think if you go to other parts of the world, mentoring is taken more seriously, right? And it's taken seriously, especially at higher levels of the organization, right? You're talking directors, you're talking CEOs, you're talking CFOs. And I think the Middle East, well, in the GCC region, we need to work a little bit more on mentoring and also coaching. But coaching is a different story, maybe a different forum. Sarah, an opportunity here. So I think there's an opportunity to improve mentoring. So why do we send? So I have an employee of Aramco at the moment working in EY at Singapore. So that is brilliant. I went to see him in July, and there are many differences, for instance, right? Not only differences between EY London, EY Singapore, EY US, but the fact that that employee of Aramco is engaged in a different culture, for instance. Singapore is such a diverse country. EY Singapore, they work very hard. They have a very commercial mindset. So I want that employee to be exposed to that environment. That is pure magic, I think. Now, if you go to the US, for instance, they have a very strong mentoring commitment at every level, every organization. In fact, organizations are made up to mentor, right, and coaching. So I think there's a need for improvement here in the region.
Great. I just want to mention that in the past 3 years, Tamkeen spent a lot of time thinking of the best mentorship frameworks for Bahrain, and we worked with several international organizations like Mowgli. We worked with the SIPE, which is the Center for International Private Enterprise, which is part of the US Chamber of Commerce, to actually benchmark and to develop the best sort of approach we can implement in Bahrain. So we have a lot of information that we can readily share with organizations looking to actually develop their own programs. We've done a lot of thinking behind this. Actually, we have someone that pursued their PhD and mentorship as a result of that. He got so interested in the topic. So we have these toolkits that are ready to be taken on board and to be implemented within your organizations soon. That said, I think I want to maybe give the audience an opportunity to ask a few questions before we continue with our discussion. We have a lot of experience and knowledge on the stage, so I was wondering if anyone wants to ask any specific questions related to their respective organizations and on whether there could be any assistance in forming similar programs within your organizations.
Esam, can I ask something? I mean,
Yes.
Going back to your point on the fact that we don't take mentorship very seriously in this region, just out of curiosity and a show of hands, if you're part of a mentorship relationship, whether you're a mentee or a mentor, in the past 2 years, have you had the chance of being part of such a relationship?
Wow,
Not bad.
I'm wrong.
Yes?
It's not about... Hi, I'm Ghada Bukhamseen, the head of talent of GIB. When we just launched in GIB also our internal mentorship program, and also we're partnering with Reach. We're having our first cohort with Reach today, launching this today. But going to Alberto's point about taking mentorship seriously, again, it's about the culture, in my own humble opinion, if you allow me. With us, mentorship, I would say, being in a Middle Eastern, it goes way back in our genes. But we mostly take mentorship from our personal lives. When we put it in structure and formal in an organizational sense, here where it's sometimes people just put it as a tick box exercise, or maybe they fall into that trap. But right now, with the millennials and putting them back into the workforce and looking for purpose, we're seeing more and more now there's that need for that mentorship or this insight, like what all of you have been talking. This is only my own humble opinion, if you allow me.
That's actually a very interesting comment, because one of the things we spoke about during our discussion is that mentorship within smaller family circles is commonplace. So this is, like you said, in our genes. This is part of our culture, who we are. But how do we expand that to make it commonplace within a larger community, within industries, etc.? We are, after all, an island nation. So people might be protective as well of what information they possess, and they look at that as an advantage, and they are very sort of protective of sharing information. So this is one of the things that we spoke about, and Alberto rightly said that there's only so much you can get out of family relationships and mentorships. There's a lot of knowledge to develop capacities within industry and technical practice. So do you want to say anything about that, Alberto?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of confidentiality aspects that you need to be aware of when you're sending people to, hopefully in the future, to your bank, right? But EY, JP Morgan, HSBC, we have a thorough procurement process to send anyone to work within any part of the world, right? So we need to be conscious of the fact that there is some information and there's risk associated with sending someone to a place. That's the reason our selection process to send someone anywhere, it has to be a high potential, right? A person that is motivated to get there, and the organization has selected that person to get there. Otherwise, well, we don't want to create trouble in terms of risk, right?
If I may just add something. I think mentorship is something that starts at the bottom up. It's people taking charge of their careers, selecting or being assigned a mentor and helping them to help them rise up in their career and make the right choices. However, a culture change is something that happens from the top down. And unless the leaders of any organization recognize the fact or the importance of hiring people who are better than them and giving them that knowledge, sharing what they know, making sure that it goes all the way down the ranks, then we won't have that successful, let's say, attempt at spreading this culture. So because there are a lot of CEOs and very senior executives in the room, I thought maybe I'd just throw that out and see if it sticks somewhere. That'd be great.
It's interesting because Gulf Air was one of the oldest aviation companies in the region. And a lot of the executives within the region running the airline companies are actually Gulf Air people. And this applies to the financial sector in Bahrain as well. If you look at executives and founders of many institutions around the region, in the Emirates and other countries within the GCC, there's a lot of very experienced Bahraini bankers that actually supported with that. So that tells you something. There's a lot of talent in Bahrain that can be exported to the whole region, but that also is an opportunity basically to look at that talent pool and ensure that there's a facilitation for that knowledge to trickle down to these, younger generations, and to have proper succession planning, which is something we also spoke about the other day. I think we have a question or comment from the audience around that. Yes.
As mentors, why do you mentor? What makes you do it? And what's one key takeaway that you've learned from one of your mentees?
Since I'm holding the mic. I actually did it accidentally. I was never really assigned a mentee, I mean. People, I've worked with, they just tell me, Nouf, you're my mentor. So that's humbling for me. I'm quite honored to have people in my life like that. And that's really, the first reason makes me feel good. But other than that, I feel like there's something that I have that people want to learn from, and it's just a way of giving back, a way of sharing that knowledge, that experience. If I could help just one person become successful, I think that's my life made. That's it. Very, very simple.
Personally, I think maybe the more recent experiences I've had or interactions I've had with my mentees have put things into perspective. So for me, the biggest and the best revelation I've come across is the fact that whenever we are forced with a challenge, it's really just an opportunity for growth. So if we can just take ourselves outside that and look at the situation in a more holistic view, more of a helicopter view, and forget about personalizing the details of it. What it really is just an opportunity for growth. And instead of getting anxious and worrying and about any challenge that we get faced with, we should actually be celebrating, because it means that, okay, so I've learned what I've learned so far. There's an opportunity for me to learn something else, which means I'm due for an elevation. I'm due for the next step up. So, and it has many forms and shapes, right? But for me, this is a key takeaway, that if we all approach challenges with that mindset, then, we celebrate and we grow much faster. So this is, I think, the one thing that I've taken away from being a mentor. I mean, very humbly, just informally with a few people. I totally agree. It's the feel-good factor. I guess some people are wired this way, and we all have a purpose in life. And if we can create or participate in creating an environment where we can facilitate such things, then we should. And I second what Nouf is saying with regards to people that are attending, people who are decision makers, people who actually have a lot of influence in the environments in which they operate. If you all take a more proactive approach towards lending a helping hand in whatever form, then we collectively work and create a much better working environment for all of us.
So, well, mentoring, for me, mentoring is an immense pleasure with invaluable rewards. When you have a mentee actually appreciating the fact that he learned from you, that has no price, right? So even in Aramco, that they pay me well. So you have a mentee saying that was amazing. Well, that has a very amazing feeling that has no price. Now I am with the attitude, very philosophical here, that I know nothing. So, I mean, if I go and anywhere in the street or anything and someone is teaching me something, that's also priceless. It's a great reward, it's a good mentor, right? So that's my attitude about mentees towards me.
Great. I think Zahra, you had a question. I don't know if organizers are allowed to ask questions, but
Sarah was just telling me, please, the last question, so I will not ask it. So.
please go ahead.
Okay. No, because we talked about that, business-to-business partnerships. We have here a few banks competing against each other. We have a few manufacturing companies competing against each other. So, and we spoke about that when it comes to confidentiality, when it comes to cross-mentorship. I think this is, when we talk about business-to-business partnership, this is one of the things I would worry if I want to mentor someone else who's working for a company which is competing with me. So how are you going to, how is this handled? I don't know.
I think setting a few ground rules is important, just like in creating any mentorship program. You know, you don't have the mentee reporting into the mentor, ethically being in a position where they can influence, you know, aside from sponsorship, that's very different, but influence directly. I think keeping that in mind and matching people across is very helpful. Also, just basically setting the contract in place. So, you know, people are of the mindset of what is allowable and what's not, and reminding people of the confidentiality clauses around it is very helpful as well. I think the benefits of such relationships most definitely will outweigh the risks. So by mitigating the risks and consciously trying to contain it, that's the best approach I would think of.
Yes, I think mentorship contracts, like coaching contracts, do exist, and they set the expectations and boundaries of a relationship that can help in tackling that as well. Are we meant to wrap up, or?
Thing. I think we also need to stick to the core of what mentoring is, which is sharing personal experiences rather than organizational secrets. That should just ensure this.
And also transparency, right? I mean, if you're a bank and you are actually mentoring one of our employees, I think the bank has to be very clear. Well, no trading, for instance, or no assignments into these particular areas, because it's very confidential. Same with a Big Four, same with any other organization. You have your secrets that are very intimate.
Okay, so as final thoughts and comments, Tamkeen again is happy to facilitate such platforms for cross-industrial collaboration and networking. We have tools that are ready for you to adopt within your organizations if required. And Gulf Air, are we going to see a program announced in the near future?
Well, the program has been launched
Yes.
in an unofficial manner. We have yet to develop it, identify the mentees. We're in the process of doing that. And then, of course, I was going to call you for the tool to match them.
Perfect, perfect.
And yes, you should see an announcement soon.
Great. MBB, will you be sharing the results of your Inspire program with the rest of us to see how we can learn from it as well?
Yes, I mean, we speak about initiatives and then the impact of initiatives, and we understand the importance of information and data. I look at my colleague here because he's a big fan of data. So we are planning on having touch points, getting feedback. I know it's more of a relationship, so it's a bit difficult to really get a very strong quantitative approach to it, but I think opinions and feedback on whether or not the relationship has been successful will help at least fuel it and give us the momentum to take it further. The commitment has been made within NBB with the highest level of support. JC, our CEO, is assigned 4 mentees. That's the maximum allowable for now due to time constraints. And what our aspirations are is, again, to connect with other organizations, even those who are perceived as competitors, because at the end of the day, we're looking to groom national talent across the economy. And to us at MBB, and that's the reason why we're here doing this today and we do other initiatives in support is because we believe that we need to contribute back to the economy holistically. So we look forward to tying up with other organizations, be it banks or from other industries. Again, thank you, Aramco, for extending the offer. We'll take you up on it. And we'd like also to connect with any other institution where they feel that a cross-mentorship amongst industries would be beneficial. For now, I think we'll focus on tweaking our own program to make sure that it reaps the most benefits that we're aspiring for from within. But definitely growth is what we're looking for, and extension of this mindset across the kingdom as a whole is what we aspire for.
Great, and good luck with that. So through this panel, we were hoping to achieve more cross-industrial relationships, and now we've been offered cross-border participation. So we'll take you up on that offer, Alberto. Any final thoughts or comments for us today?
No, thank you. I think it was, I loved it. I hope it was useful. I love sharing the panel with two very successful ladies. By the way, in the morning when a gentleman asked who is your mentor, I just wanted to share this. I share it with Nouf. You know, I was mentored throughout my life by female, family members, my grandmother, my mother, but also by female professionals. And they were very powerful, right? Not until I came to Saudi that I've been mentored by males, but I think in Australia, in Mexico, my mentoring was through females, and I can guarantee it was powerful and very strong. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being with us. We really enjoyed the discussion, and we hope you did as well. We'll be around if you wanted to continue on any of these discussions. Thank you so much.